Welcome to the Bleep Bulimia podcast with Amy Vincze, and she is going to speak to tapping. Hi, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Bulimia, and today I have Amy with me. And can you please help me with how you say your last name? I should have asked that earlier, but I just thought, oh,
It's totally fine. Everybody struggles with it. It's Vince.
Vince. Oh, that's very nice. So, Amy is a dedicated professional in the health and wellness industry for 20 years, and she's also the founder of the Soar with Tapping app, which is really interesting. Really, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Lorianne.
No problem. So, tapping, I've heard about it. I'm looking forward to knowing more about it. I just want to know what inspired you to move into this space.
Well, my own suffering, of course. Um, so growing up, I'll just real quick recap because I know we don't have much time, but my dad was an alcoholic and he left when I was, I think, 4.
Oh,
And all kids are kind of naturally narcissistic. They think that everything in their environment happens because of them or for them. And so I assumed that my dad left because there was something wrong with me.
mm,
So, and because my mom was kind of a little emotionally checked out, a little emotionally unavailable, I kind of
mm,
glommed onto my sister. But my sister, after having gone through the same thing, was really angry. She just adapted to the situation in a different way. I assumed her anger was directed at me because naturally narcissistic. And so I spent my life kind of turning myself inside out, trying to please my sister because I just craved love and affection so much that I needed that from somebody. And so I would turn myself inside out, become who she needed in the moment, whether it was happy and playful or, just kind of quiet and, you know, I don't know, a presence for her. I would do whatever she needed. So there came a time in my life, kind of in my late 20s, when I had no idea who I was. I had spent so much time adapting to environments, adapting to different people and different personalities. I had no clue who I was, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted. I had nothing. And when I didn't have somebody to focus on, like my sister or a partner of some kind, then I kind of everything fell apart in my life. And in my late 20s during college was when I developed bulimia, thinking that because I needed to please other people with my appearance, then I had to go down that route because I was soothing myself so much through the pain of not knowing who I was, not having any confidence whatsoever. I would soothe myself a lot with food, binging, and then purging, obviously. And it was like that for years. I had no clue what was causing that until fast forward until I think I was 31 years old when I was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. So I, I wasn't really like, I was looking at other people in my life and thinking, I know that I am the same biologically as this other person over here. I didn't have any kind of breast cancer in my family, nothing genetic to pass on to me. So it didn't make sense to me that I would have it and somebody my exact age, whatever, wouldn't. And so I really started asking questions like, why me? And I wasn't saying it as a, shake my fist at God kind of thing. I was really curious. What is it about me? What is it about my thought process, my spirituality, my physical body that has created this cancer. And so it kind of led me down this road, and I started exploring lots of different things. One of which was going to Tony Robbins events. And I love Tony. He's so positive and he's so heart-centered. Um, and it was so I went through Tony's whole program, but then I met somebody at when I was crewing an event a couple of years later who called me a month after the event and said, I found this amazing tool. I want to share it with you. So we had one session and I was hooked. There was a part of me that just immediately recognized the power of this tool. But I'll have to admit that I had limited success with it at first. Sometimes I would have really great sessions with my coach, and sometimes it would kind of fall flat. And I didn't know what the difference was until 7 years ago when I reached a crisis point in my life and everything was falling apart again. And I started tapping like crazy. And when I say like crazy, I mean for like a half an hour a day for maybe 2 weeks straight. But what I was tapping on changed. Like all of a sudden, I had an instinct to start tapping on not just the symptoms that I was experiencing, which were at the time severe procrastination, severe anxiety. I was having anxiety attacks on a daily basis. I was still struggling with massive addiction to food, all that I had given up, purging. And, my relationship was struggling, everything was struggling, but I wasn't focusing on those things with my tapping. I was focusing on the root cause of those issues. So I went all the way back to dad leaving and this decision that I had made that there was something wrong with me. And I started tapping on that and all of the resulting fears, like fear that judgment and criticism from anybody around me meant that I wasn't lovable. Fear that I had to do exactly what other people wanted me to do, otherwise I would risk love and affection again. So those types of things, fear that I wasn't worthy or deserving, and applying this tool to those things changed my life dramatically. And that's when I had been a certified tapping coach for 16 years. But when I had that realization, then I was like, I have to share this with people. They need to know that this tool can, in 2 weeks, cause that kind of transformation.
Wow. I would think too, is the fear of abandonment.
Oh,
Because that
absolutely.
as a child, that's, I am probably guilty of making my children feel that way too. They were in their well, my daughter in particular. So I had my son was 9, my daughter was 11, and my oldest son was 15 when I divorced. And at one point, they all, like my daughter stayed with me for 4 years, but then she went and moved with her dad. I had no one, they weren't coming to visit me. So I decided to move on with my life. And I bought a business and I moved 2 hours away. And it was only later that my children were saying, we felt abandoned by you. But
Yeah.
as a person, but it's weird because I'm not looking at they seem to be having a great life. They were fine. They weren't, and I needed to move on. I couldn't just sit there in a house and wait for them to come visit me. So there's a real duality in this whole thing. We kept in touch all the time. Don't get me wrong. My son used to come
Yeah.
every summer, stay with me, but um yeah, it was a realization when now they're in their late teens and go, Mom, come home, when my business was starting to fail through the economy.
Yeah.
And I had to get rid of it. They said, come home. They wanted me there. And I'm going, wow, really? Like,
The thing about, life circumstances like this and our responses to it is what we know is that it doesn't have to be rational for it to
no.
feel super true to our little hearts, especially as, developing people. You know, we take these things so much to heart as if
Mhm.
they are because of us, or um,
Yes. Our
we're
fault. Yeah.
deserving of bad things somehow. And then, they develop into fears, and then they develop into limiting beliefs. And those things follow us
Yeah.
throughout our life unless they are dealt with through something like tapping.
Now, before we move on, I found it interesting because I do want to know more about the tapping, but I found it interesting that you use the word narcissist. I find it difficult to apply that to a child, and I get what you're saying. I've never really heard it in this context, the
Hmm.
narcissism of a child. Um, but from my understanding of adult narcissists, they're more. I get it. They struggle through certain things. They need the attention and so on, but they can also be outwardly like unkind and uncaring and all about them. I really, from my definition of that, I think that you are acting not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that, yeah, it's it, what it life, it's, what do they say, fight or flight type of thing where a child that sort of, I've lost my dad and now what am I going to do? So interesting the way that you use that word. I wouldn't equate it to that. I would equate it to a natural response to abandonment and feeling that it's your fault because as parents now, as divorcees, we always tell our children, it's not you because of your case and so many cases like that where the child feels that they were the reason why the parents divorced or the parent left, abandoned, whatever. So I
Yeah.
found that fascinating. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I think
And
our
I
response
I want
was,
to clarify too that what in general, what I mean about that, and I think kids grow out of that, obviously, for the most part. Um, what I mean is that as a child, as a 4-year-old child, no child has the ability to look at all of the different dynamics in a situation. They don't have the ability to see things from my dad's perspective or from my mom's perspective, or even see their traumas and the lens that they look through the world with. So I only have my own perspective, and as a young 4-year-old, I just assumed that that's the only one. But I do think that we grow out of that with age and experiences for the most part, which is what allows us to be, contributing members of society.
thank you. Okay, so let's move on to this tapping. If you can explain a little bit more to our listeners about it.
I'd love to.
And I do definitely want to also want my listeners to learn more about your app as well. So let's dive in.
Let's dive in. Okay, so tapping is a really great combination of three powerful modalities. So, firstly, it is really similar to acupuncture in that it utilizes the 14 energy meridians and acupressure points that are found in Chinese medicine. So, um, instead of using the needles, we use the percussion of tapping on those acupressure points. Then it also incorporates the cognitive aspect of therapy in that you are talking about what it is you want to release while you are doing the tapping. So, for example, if you're feeling really sad, you can say, this sadness is so deep and I feel it in my heart and I don't know how to let it go, and it's making it hard to breathe at times, or whatever it is that you're experiencing. So you talk about what it is you want to release. Could be a trauma, it could be a feeling, it could be that you want to go to sleep at night and you're struggling with racing thoughts. Whatever it is, you can address it with your speaking. Do you have a question?
I was just going to say it's interesting. So my listeners, of course, to my listeners, it was interesting to watch Amy because she was moving her fingers and tapping in the spots that she was speaking about. So I feel, and then the heart, and then the chest, and then the stomach, or whatever that you're relating to that pain is. Am I right about that? So you're
Well,
addressing.
there's an order that you go through in the tapping points just to make it easy easy to go through them all. So,
Okay.
like if you know, for example, that this point in particular has something to do with your tummy, if you're struggling with, stomach pains or digestive issues or something like that, then maybe you just tap right there. But for the most part, we just tap through all of the points because that will help your energy to balance all over your body and keep it from being too complicated. So I can go through the tapping points in a minute, but I do want to also explain that there is also a somatic um, element to tapping also, because the act of tapping on your body can't help but bring your energy back from the past, worrying about the past and, all of the pain that was there, or worrying about the future. And it brings it back into the present moment where you can be the most powerful, most effective version of yourself. So that's what's happening kind of on an energetic level and a cognitive level. What's happening on a scientific level is that the stress center of our brain, the amygdala, in general, if you are feeling some extreme emotion or if you are feeling some anxiety, it has been triggered. That fight or flight response has been triggered in our brain, and our body is being flooded with cortisol. 99% of the time, people don't know what has caused this trigger. They just know that they feel anxious or stressed or overwhelmed. It comes out as all of these different words because it's hard to name generally what has triggered us. So when that happens and our amygdala gets triggered and cortisol is flooding our body, so when we start tapping, it is sending a message to the amygdala in our brain, and it is telling it to de-escalate, 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 and it will start removing cortisol from our system 43% faster than if you had done nothing else. It will start lowering your heart rate. It will start lowering blood pressure. All of this has been measured in over 300 studies. And it sends a message to that amygdala telling our body that it's okay to feel safe and calm about whatever it is you're talking about, whatever it is you're tapping about in that moment. So, and even if you don't know what it is that triggered you, you can just talk about the physical symptoms. Like, it's really hard for me to take a deep breath right now. I have no idea why. Something has been triggered in my body, and it's telling me that there's a reason to feel unsafe right now. So you just tap through all of those things, and over a period of time, it will help to calm down your body.
I love that. I literally can understand that feeling of even just feeling anxious at work, and I just people look at me and my legs are shaking because I tend to be like this, things, you know. And
Yes.
there's one person I connect to really well, kind of like my work son. And he goes, "So what are you anxious about today?" I go, "I have no idea again. I have no idea, but I am, but I am." And he always knows. So this
Yeah.
is interesting. This is yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting. And of course, prior to we're talking about the bulimia just quickly, bulimia used to be one of the reliefs for that anxiety, like so that I do just turn to food because I didn't know what was bothering me, and so I would just go and it was obviously not the right thing to do, but it was something that I need it's like,
Yeah. You need
yeah,
something to soothe your nervous system. And you
yep,
figured out that in a moment, I can put something in my mouth and I forget. I
yep,
forget that I'm stressed. And it
yep,
is very soothing in a moment to do that. So it's no wonder that people adapt with all kinds of different addictions. Some
yeah,
are, some like are viewed positively on the outside. Like if you're a workaholic and you constantly are striving and working too hard, that's not balance either. And there is an addictive element to that. But if you have like an addiction to food, like you or I do, or an alcoholic addiction, then that can cause other problems in our lives. But it's all meant to kind of soothe that part of us that gets scared, that
Yeah.
worries about the past or the future. And
Hmm.
yeah, so that's why we
Yeah.
have those things. And the problem with that is we're not generally given through our lives by our parents or the people around us, or even by society, the emotional intelligence to understand what's happening underneath the surface. So we don't have a great language or the encouragement to actually feel the emotions that are underneath that, that are causing the bulimia or the need to soothe. And so it gets unaddressed for so long. And we just look at the symptom. We just look at the the food addiction, or we just look at the paralysis that happens in procrastination for people sometimes, and we think, well, that's the thing that needs to be fixed. And that's not really the case. What needs to be addressed is the underlying trauma that caused the fear or the limiting belief and creates this behavior.
Interesting. And that's very true because it was funny once my kids called me back home and I lost my business and it'd been a while, but that, believe it or not, I moved in with my sister and she just said something. And she goes, I know you're still bulimic, but I love you. And the next day I stopped. But what happened that night was I realized the actual trauma that was causing all this was gone. So why am I continually hurting myself? I'm in a safe place now. I'm not overworking, trying to prove myself. I lost my business. How low can you go? Like it's just,
Yeah.
I did feel like a failure because, losing a business makes you feel that way. But there was the other side of the trauma that I was looking at, like the divorce and all of that stuff, that all of a sudden said, hey, you have no attachment to that anymore. And that was what I feel was a difficult thing for me to quit my bulimia, was not realizing. And then with my sister saying that, I'm thinking, I have no attachment to what was my issues at the time when it started. So let go. And that's easier said than done for like it. I was grateful and it did take me 6 months of, struggling with, you know,
But what a
but
brave choice. Such a
but
brave
today,
choice. Yeah.
thank you. And it's going to be 15 years in February of next year. And I'm so
Oh,
excited.
congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. But I sometimes think, okay, I get it. But I think I would never want to go back. And why did I do it for so long? Like, and it's strange thought. So yes, I know why, but I'm thinking, but why? Like, why did you do that? My older self is talking to my younger Lorianne going, really, I
Yeah.
wish you were here back there, which is cute. There's other things that the older Lorianne says to the younger Lorianne going, geez, I wish you hadn't done that. But you would, if you hadn't done that, this wouldn't have happened. But um, to your app, I'm very interested in letting our listeners know about that. How does that work?
Um, well, there are over 170 tapping scripts and meditations on there. So really you can go to the app and search for whatever category you want to work through, including physical issues, emotional issues, sleep, um, goal support, or financial. If you have concerns, financial concerns, there are tapping scripts in there for you. Really, it's designed to cover all the different scenarios that you can imagine. There's also videos on there that will educate users about how to approach things like anxiety or depression, because those are really big topics. And if somebody comes to the app and says, I am an addict, they're not going to know where to start. So there are videos that will kind of educate them about the best way to use tapping and the best way to use the app and the order in which they should do their tapping in order to um, see the best results and to feel some relief as fast as possible. And that's really why I created the app, because when I was thinking that I needed to reach more people, what I looked at that was out there offered really great support, but it was more of a band-aid. And it would offer that intermittent success that I was talking about in the beginning. And I really wanted to give people the tools and the knowledge about how to approach their root cause of their issue. Because I have gotten rid of a lot of things in my life with tapping. Things that used to plague me, fears that used to plague me, traumas that, I couldn't not look through the world with the lens of these traumas. And they are gone now because of tapping. And I am a completely different person today because of it. So I just want to encourage your listeners that, I mean, it's not an easy process to go through because it requires you to kind of lean into the things that scare you, lean into maybe some uncomfortable feelings, but it is through the darkness that you actually find true relief from those things. It's not about covering it up with happy thoughts. It's about honoring and acknowledging the things that scare you, and so that you can actually let them go. Once they have been honored and acknowledged enough, that's what allows our body and our minds to release them completely. And that's what the app is designed to do.
I love that. So you would be, so you're right, because I know that bulimia there are underlying, so it will help them to focus more on it. I just went through 2 years ago, my father passing. I still have issues and with grieving, because everybody grieves differently, but you sit there and you're going, but I didn't cry enough and I don't feel him. And there's these questions. And then I lost my dog 3 days ago, and my daughter was with me, got attacked by a mink. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
know I'm talking very normally about it, but trust me, it's not. It was very devastating because I
I
saw her
bet.
fall over, ran to the corner of the backyard, and anyway, picked her up and she was bleeding to death. We went to the vet. But my daughter coming out of the vet after I had to put her down because it was too she was injured too badly. She says, so they wanted to give you your coat back. So she makes a joke and she goes, I'm sorry. No. And I was fine. I started laughing. I go, I know, right? I said, my dog just died and the coat is full of blood. And they go, would you like your coat back? So she says, I've got, she's gone through a lot of trauma too. And of course, she went through the divorce with me, right? So to speak, it goes,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
other things. Um, and so I said, she goes, I'm sorry, right, my mom, I don't want to cry. I've gone through too much in the last little while. And I know this sounds weird, but I need to make some jokes and just need to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
And I said, that's fine. But on the other hand, too, my dealing with my dog's death is also difficult because you sit there, oh, did I do enough? Why wasn't I right there for her before the thing attacked her? I mean, I was there. I always watch my dogs in the backyard, but this little
Yeah.
thing's in a corner and it's black and it's small, and I didn't know it lived there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, but those questions. So those I would imagine when you're going through those feelings of like guilt, remorse, or whatever, the tapping would also be there for over time, relieve that
Yes.
annoying thing that you carry with you, but you do bury it. I know I'm burying my thoughts because I don't want to bring them up because it hurts too much.
Oh, it's too scary. It's too
Yeah,
scary. It's absolutely
yeah,
terrifying to face something like that.
yeah.
So, first of all, I would totally recommend that you work with a skilled tapping coach to approach that trauma,
Okay.
because there is a very specific way to use tapping that would minimize your you re-traumatizing yourself with it, but also allow you to release all of the guilt and the remorse and the regret that goes along with that event. That's huge.
Yeah.
And what I also want to say is it's a natural instinct, especially for people with trauma, to guard their heart, to put up armor all the way around in order to keep them from experiencing that pain. And that's the exact tool that allows us to, in a moment, laugh at things like, a bloody jacket being offered back to us or something along those lines. And it allows us to function in our day-to-day life. And so that feels like it helps a lot, and it also hurts a lot because it minimizes our ability to make really true and unguarded connections with people, which is what we really seek. That's kind of our deepest desire, is to make true connection with people. And I think we forget that, especially when we put all of that armor in place as protection. So, part of the courageous approach of doing this work is to have a willingness to kind of let down that armor a little bit, allow ourselves to care, allow ourselves to feel. But with that comes such a great big capacity to experience love and compassion on the other side of it that we're kind of incapable of doing when we have that armor in place. So it's a little bit of a um, you know, I'm trying to think of a cliche or a metaphor, but you understand what I'm saying. It's a double-edged sword. So you go in one
Yes.
direction and you risk not having deep connection, and you go in another direction and you feel like you're going to experience extreme pain.
Yes,
Either way,
absolutely.
you would have to choose the path that you go, and some people choose not to feel it. And I have zero judgment about that. I know how much pain is involved with going down a different path. But for those that are willing to feel, tapping is the right thing for them.
Beautiful. And I understand the numbing of it and everything, and it is like a comfort zone. But for me, even with my dad passing, because that was a very difficult time too, and I was with my mom when we cared for him. Again, the same thing. Did I do enough and stuff? And so I
Right.
numb myself to everything, and I have a hard time, not with
Yeah.
daily relationships or anything, or my daughter, but I mean, just I can't see myself in a personal relationship with another with someone again. Like it's just
Right.
me, like the way I am.
Right.
Um, and I know that there's a lot of things that I would like to address. I have gone to therapy for grief therapy, but it this is interesting because if it can open a door that I haven't been able to open, that I know is there, like I know there's something that's bothering me that I can release, like that's there that I want to release. So this
Yes.
is what intrigues me
Yes.
about that. So, like I
Yeah.
did with my bulimia, and I didn't do the tapping for it, but there's certain instances for certain humans that with me, it's death. I really I can't process it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, maybe there's a way to do it with your tapping where you kind of encourage yourself to just experiment. You don't have to like all of a sudden make sure that there's zero armor, because that would be way too scary. That'd be like
Yeah.
giving all of your enemies a bow and arrow and putting a target on your heart, right? So you're
Yeah.
not going to do that, but you can encourage yourself to just try and open your heart a little bit at a time, make sure that it's safe, and feel comfortable with that level of opening your heart, and then you can go a little bit deeper. There's no rush to this process. It really is whatever you are called to do. And if you're called to
Nice.
do it just a little bit and that feels safe at the moment, then you go that route and then see if there is a desire to go deeper at a different time. Everybody is on their our own journey. There is no timeline to any of this. you are growing and healing all the time, whether or not you recognize it or you actively seek it out. So actively seeking it out would just increase the rate at which you are healing.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time. So I just want you now to let our listeners know where they can find you. And of course, the app would likely be on the Apple or the Android, like wherever
Yeah,
you have,
yeah.
whatever phone you find your place with. Yeah.
Yes, they can
Um,
search for Soar with Tapping on either platform. But if they go to my website, soarwithtapping.com, they can go to /podcast-special. And there they will find a code where they can put that in the app and get 50% off of their first annual subscription.
Perfect.
But you can also find me on all of the social medias. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the things under Soar with Tapping. And I do like a little daily tapping. I just go through one tapping round, just trying to give everybody a little bit of a gift as they start their day and hopefully make them feel better. So, yeah.
Love it. I really do appreciate your time. And really, really thank you for being patient with me too today with all the technical issues at the beginning. But
Oh, no
it's
problem.
lovely. It's lovely having guests who are understanding. And so thank you very much. Uh, so listeners, again, just remember to go and check out Soar with Tapping and all over the internet, in any social media realm. Again, thank you very much, Amy. Appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me, Lorianne.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.